Hello, welcome back to yet another video. I think this is the fourth in our series of playing Minecraft, while talking about various things. At the end of the last video I was about to go into Nether, so that's mainly what we'll be doing Minecraft wise today. But in terms of what I want to talk about, I've got two main things. First of all, this isn't one of the main things, but it's just gone Christmas in my part of the world. If you're using some sort of different calendar, you might not have had that yet, but Merry Christmas, and it's about to be New Year, and I doubt I'll have a new video by then, so by extension, Happy New Year. What a year it's been, to put it lightly, I think, in my opinion. I'm currently in a season where I'm meant to be revising quite heavily for some exams, and I'm really struggling to find motivation. The only time of day where I can even revise is the night time. For example, in the daytime, all I seem to want to do is just sleep. Well, here we go. Also, I apologise for the faint humming in the background of this recording. I can't seem to be able to fix it, but I'll figure it out. But yeah, I seem to be overcome with this extreme lack of motivation. I don't know what it is, and I was thinking earlier, I feel like my fear of failure, my fear of not fulfilling my potential to the fullest, just leads me to just some sort of acute inability to do anything productive, you know? And it's terrible, because, you know, it just exacerbates it. I'm failing to do anything which isn't going to solve any problem, and honestly, I'm quite worried for myself, because, you know, these are my not these exams coming up immediately, but in a few months' time there'll be my final exams, and, you know, I kind of need to at least have found some sort of semblance of motivation by that point, you know. So I'm worried, to be honest. I'm worried for myself about how I'm going to get over this sort of hurdle which I've created for myself. And I don't know, every time I even consider getting some sort of book open to look at, or practice questions, to do notes or anything like that, I just can't. Physically, it's like having some sort of leash around my brain in a metaphorical way, which causes me not to be able to do anything. And I'm worried. I am worried for myself, and I simply have no clue how I'm going to get over it. You know, it's coming up to the last week of my holiday, and before these mock exams, and I'm like, it's sort of crunch time, you know, and it's all getting a bit real. Perhaps that worry will sort of motivate me to work harder, but I doubt it will. I genuinely doubt it will. So yeah, that's what's going on. And it's just, I find that I put blockage after blockage after blockage on my phone, I simply keep finding ways to go around those blockages and spend infinitely more time just whiling away my life looking at just crap social media posts about, it's just drivel, it's just complete drivel. But I seem to be genuinely addicted to it. And I'm worried. I am very concerned. And I don't want to get rid of my phone entirely. Again, I don't know what's stopping me from doing that, but I don't want to get rid of it entirely, because I quite enjoy talking to people on the telephone and so on and so forth, and I find it quite a useful tool often, but perhaps its negatives, quite frankly, far outweigh its positives. And it is, you know, our parents were right. It is that bloody phone, you know. It is that bloody phone. I need to think of some sort of new strategy, because if it continues like this, then, you know, at the end of the day, I will certainly not fulfill my potential, and I'll be quite disappointed in life. I've got to fulfill my God-given potential, you know. I have to. Otherwise, it's a waste of life. Potential, it's the big P word that I feel like has sort of clouded my life for a long time. You know, my parents always go on about potential. You've got so much potential. And I don't know if the knowledge of having potential has perhaps made me very much complacent. I think that is the case, at least to a small extent. That's made me complacent. Complacency is one of my largest faults. I find myself very complacent quite often, at least laziness and so on. Aforementioned laziness. Let's see if we can nip this one in the bud. And then the more I think about it, the more I get worried, and the more I become fearful of not fulfilling my potential, and just the worse it gets. I just exacerbate the issue inside of my head, and it's this endless cycle which seems to get worse and bloody worse. I don't know where it ends. But I tell you what, it's got to end soon, otherwise, well, to put it bluntly, I'm fucked. You know, and I don't really like the idea of that. In lighter personal news, in my horrifying laziness, I have binge watched the terrific television show that is The Thick of It, the political satire, and I tell you, every line in it is just biting. It is fabulous, it's bloody fantastic. Definitely recommend it to anybody, really. Anybody out there, because it's riveting, it's brilliant. It's not that many episodes, and it's absolutely terrific. A bit sweary at times, I will admit, a bit sweary, but it's good, very good. But yeah, back to my point. So often these past 2 weeks or so, I've just found myself looking at myself and thinking, what the actual hell am I doing with myself? What are you doing? I'm just wasting time. And I waste time thinking about how much time that I'm wasting. You know? It's just, as I said, it's just this cycle of self-pity and complacency and laziness that I can't seem to break free from. And I'm concerned. I am concerned. The second thing that I wanted to talk about was per a recommendation is how many of these are there? I'd like to use about all the different sort of schools I've attended, and sort of by extension the countries that I've lived in. So I suppose I'll just go for it. Firstly, most importantly, arguably, I was born in the town, I suppose, of Watford. One of the greatest places on earth, I think. In fact, I'm going there next week. Love Watford. I would die for Watford, probably. But yes, and I lived there until I was just 6 and a bit years old. So, funnily enough, it wasn't actually that long. 6.5 years. And then, so quickly, I moved to South Korea, where my father's family's from. I think I mentioned that before, I might not have. But I think I have. And moving to Korea was weird for me because, I mean, just immediately it was sort of like just a language barrier, honestly, because despite being Korean and growing up speaking Korean sort of loosely, I wouldn't have considered myself truly fluent, you know? And so immediately there was that sort of difficulty in living in this new country where quite frankly I was different. I was obviously different to others, you know. It's just slightly strange, white-looking kid is what I was, you know. I think that helped me in my life. It gave me slightly thicker skin, if you will. And yeah, that was one school in Korea, and then I actually went to another school, and this second school in Korea was was an international school, so it was sort of a mix of mostly American, and it was mostly Korean American people, which was lovely, and I met some of my greatest friends I ever had there. And unfortunately I'm not really in contact with them anymore. I contacted one of them on Instagram about a year ago, I think, and we had a brief conversation which ended in him not really responding, which I can't blame him. I'm not the most important person in the world, but anyway, that's by the by. Yeah, I had 3 great friends, absolutely fantastic friends, and I will say fantastic, I was only there for 2 years, so even then, and that first school in Korea, if I didn't mention, was just 1.5 years, so it was this cycle of just going to new school, and I was never really able to, as a lot of people do, they have these friends that they've known since they were like, 5, 6, 7, for many, many years, and I still hadn't had the honour of having such a friend group or a friend like that, But, my time would come. And then, after that, at the age of 9, I moved to South Africa, which was an interesting decision. My family, my grandparents lived in South Africa, and I moved to South Africa without my parents and without my brother, so I just lived with my grandparents, and it was very difficult. I was, as I said, I was 9 years old, and living without your parents at 9, as I'm sure, many of you may have had to do. It's hard, man. I only talk to them about once a week, and I miss them, and obviously I got used to it over the 2 years, and I saw them a couple of times over the 2 years, but bloody hell, I miss them. There were nights, honestly, where I'd just cry myself to sleep, just thinking I was in some sort of hell, that I'd never leave. And it was hard. It was very, very hard. But again, I think this sort of built me up, and going to this South African school, which, quite frankly, it's a big change from going to a Korean school. There were almost no other Asians. You experience a small amount of racism every now and then, but, that's not too bad. When it's to me, I don't mind it all too much. But, just being different all my life from others. And I'll tell you what, this is something I didn't mention before, was that when I was in Korea, I was put 2 years ahead. They messed up something, and I wasn't particularly smart or anything, they just messed up something in the admin, and I was put 2 years ahead in South Africa, so I was learning about all these things that only sort of teenagers should know about way too early, and I think that really affected me for the entirety of my life, knowing these things that it was like eating the apple from the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden, if you will. It's like I knew certain things too early, and it sort of affected perhaps my innocence. But yeah, and in South Africa I was 1 year above. Again, I don't know why, but yeah, all my classmates were older than me, but I got on really well for the 2 years at school. There was this one kid that used to bully me incessantly, but life goes on, and it was good. I made some good solid friends, and I had a good time. And it truly, those 2 years, I think I might argue, were the most influential years in my life in building me up to the person that I find myself to be today. And then I came to Sheffield, which is where I still am now. I've been here for 6.5 years, nearly 7 now. And honestly, coming here has been one of the greatest blessings of my life. I mean, it's not just the city of Sheffield itself, which, goes without saying, is absolutely stupendous. It's my friends now, and as I talked about in the second episode, I've just got some absolutely terrific friends, and I've had experiences here that just are unrivaled, and I'll cherish for the rest of my life. But this school, because I managed to be here for 6 or 7 years, it's the first time I've had the opportunity to sort of make, you know, lifelong friends, make friends that last more than 2 years, you know, and that's been excellent, absolutely excellent for me, because I love my friends. They're just terrific, they're tremendous, you know, and I am extremely blessed to have them. And in terms of education systems, I suppose another thing I can talk about is when I was at school in Korea, because it was an international school, it was sort of the American curriculum. So I learned a lot about American history, and I mean that sort of links and perhaps started my interest in American politics and such. But yeah, and then in South Africa, it's I don't know how to put this. It's still sort of a developing nation in a way. So the education wasn't to the standard that I might have found in Korea, for example. Which is not to say it was bad by any means. It was still terrific. You know, my teachers were awesome. They were great, and I still remember loads of them, like, you know, Mrs. Richards, my maths teacher, and Miss Malden, my English teacher. And there were some excellent teachers there, you know. And I'll remember them for probably the rest of my life, however long it becomes being. Whoa! Did you see that? Did you see that shot? What on earth is that? Like a Gas CD. I need to listen to that. We'll have to listen to that back when we get home. Back of the net. I still don't know where my portal is. And all these different experiences have truly made me into the person I am today. The person I'm very happy to be. I mean, not to say it's all been smooth sailing. It certainly hasn't been, you know. There's been, you know, a litany of ups and downs which I've gotten through these past few years, particularly this past year or so. But, you know, I'm trying to leave that behind me, with it being, as I said, sort of new year coming up, new year, new me, and all that. Alright, we'll listen to this disc. Watch this. Wasn't that good? Gotta be honest, that was quite a lot more unhinged than I expected it to be, but I've heard worse. Yeah, I won't name any bands or artists, but I certainly could if I wanted to. I'm gonna go to the Warped Forest to see if I can get any Ender pearls for making the Eyes of Ender. With the first topic I'll be talking about this video, just really need to get my head out my ass and get a move on. But I just don't know. I don't know where my motivation's gone. Vanished, it has vanished. Anyway, I don't think I have much more to say, so, you know, I thought I could finish with the Enderman, but I doubt I'll be able to do that, so I'll just do that myself. We'll come back next time, me having gotten all the Endermen. But all I can say really is, have a very happy New Year. God bless you all. Good night.